In the quiet, fore-clad village of Eldergrove, there existed a legend as old as the ancient oaks that towered over the town. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones of the haunting presence that dwelled in the heart of the Darkwood Forest. It was said that once you entered the forest after dusk, you might never return. One chilly October evening, a young man named Thomas, driven by a mix of curiosity and skepticism, decided to uncover the truth behind the legend. Armed with nothing more than a lantern and his resolve, he ventured into the forest, the village lights fading behind him. The forest was eerily silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves underfoot. As Thomas ventured deeper, the trees seemed to close in on him, their twisted branches like skeletal hands reaching out to ensnare him. Despite the unease gnawing at his guts, he pressed on, determined to prove that the stories were mere fabrications. Hours passed, and the deeper Thomas went, the thicker the fog grew, swirling around him, ghostly apparitions. Suddenly, he stumbled upon a clearing, where an ancient, decrepit mansion stood. Its windows were dark and hollow, and the air around it seemed to hum with an almost tangible malevolence. With a shiver of apprehension, Thomas approached the mansion. The door creaked open with an ominous groan, and he stepped inside. The interior was shrouded in darkness, the air thick with dust and the scent of decay. His lantern cast flickering shadows on the walls, revealing faded portraits of long-forgotten inhabitants whose eyes seemed to follow him. Exploring the mansion, Thomas felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if unseen eyes were watching his every move. He reached a grand staircase and ascended, each step echoing through the silent halls. At the top, he found a door slightly ajar, and beyond it, a room bathed in the cold light of the moon. Inside the room, an old, ornate mirror stood against the wall. As Thomas approached, his reflection warped and twisted until it no longer resembled him. Instead, it was the visage of a gaunt, hollow-eyed figure with a sinister grin. Thomas recoiled in horror, but his reflection remained, its eyes boring into his soul. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind him, and the room grew colder. The figure in the mirror stepped out, its ethereal form solidifying into something tangible and terrifying. Thomas tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips. The figure advanced, its skeletal hand reaching out to touch him. As its icy fingers brushed his skin, Thomas felt a surge of fear, unlike anything he had ever known. The room seemed to spin, and darkness enveloped him. When he awoke, he was no longer in the mansion, but lying at the edge of the Darkwood Forest, the first light of dawn breaking through the trees. Shaken and disoriented, Thomas stumbled back to the village. He tried to recount his experience, but the words caught in his throat, and he could only manage to mutter incoherent fragments of his ordeal. The villagers, seeing the terror in his eyes, understood that the legend was no mere tale. From that day forward, Thomas was never the same. He avoided the forest and the mansion at all costs, but the haunted look in his eyes remained. The villagers, too, grew even more wary of the Darkwood Forest, ensuring that no one ventured there after dusk. And so, the legend of the Darkwood Forest and the malevolent presence within the mansion endured, a chilling reminder of the unknown horrors that lurk in the shadows. The village of Eldergrove remained shrouded in an uneasy silence, forever haunted by the memory of that fateful night. I hope this story captivates and sends a shiver down your spine.